competition is quite high for Indian students, like given the population,
Right.
even 50% of the class is comprising of Indian people.
Right.
There are fairs where companies come, to pitch.
Hey guys, so today we have Isha with us who has studied at one of the best colleges of the world, that is ESCP Business School, and is currently working in Netherlands. And so in this particular session, we will also be getting the perspective of not just studying, but also what happens once you study. And we will be starting off by discussing about her profile, like what she really liked at ESCP since she has graduated, her perspective of the job market in Europe right now, the campuses she studied in at ESCP, and her tips to anyone who's planning to do this in the coming few years. So Isha, I would just give the mic to you now. If you can just give a small introduction of yours, and then we can take this forward.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Kevin, for having me here. I'm Isha. I recently graduated from ESCP Business School. I've been in France and Germany campus altogether.
Right.
Also worked there as internships.
Right.
And currently I'm working as a senior consultant with Mercer in Netherlands. Apart from this, I've also been helping students with their study abroad journey, be it right from the applications to job search. I'm always there to, guide them across the journey.
Awesome. And so could you walk us through the whole process of you applying to ESCP? Which year was that in? How was it for you? Was that complex for you? Was it simple for you? And any problems you faced, anything you want to talk about in general to people out there?
Sure. So my application journey was quite different from the usual conventional path because I applied through CAT, and that's basically called Joiner School in France, where you can apply through CAT scores in 5 French business schools,
Right.
and that's how I did it. So of course the process was a bit different. There were different questions, different application altogether.
Right.
But this is something I had gotten to know recently back then in 2021, that this is a process and it's an option for students to not
Right.
take GMAT or GRE.
Right.
And that I decided to give it a shot, and I think it worked out for me, and that's how I landed up at ACP.
Awesome. So, I mean, again, this is a different story altogether because this is not a very common route a lot of people take. So, joiner school application is, if I'm, putting it out there correctly, is like you send one application to all the colleges, right? It's not like a separate application to every college. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. It's not a separate application for each individual school. It's one application, 5 questions, and that's how you apply to all the 5 schools.
Awesome. And would you mind sharing the CAT score or maybe the range of the CAT score, if not the exact one?
So, of course, it's not just the scores which are taken into consideration, it's your entire profile. So, I wouldn't be able to give an exact number on the percentile which you need to get, but of course, more than 90 percentile is something which you, if you have and you're interested in applying for European business schools, then you can give it a shot.
Right.
But of course, there are a lot of factors taken into consideration.
Right. So, as per you, it's not really just the CAT score or the GMAT score, or maybe anything in specific. It's like everything weaved together. That's what helps us, right?
Yes. So it's like an overall profile. It's firstly academic for sure. Your GPA from your undergrad also counts.
Right.
And your scores. Apart from this, extracurriculars, it can be your leadership experiences, teamwork. If you've done any sort of publications, you have a good profile in sports, or you come from a diverse background. Like I've had classmates who are from medical colleges. So all these things taken into consideration, and of course, it adds up. And not to forget the interview, which you have to eventually give, right? So all these things will add up, and it actually counts, because that's how the admission committee will take a decision based on your overall profile.
Right. So, and when we say the holistic profile, could you give us a brief, like maybe this much experience is fine? Because if it's an MIM, so it's of course going to be less than 2 years. But having 1 year of experience, is that something that is beneficial for the students? Or you've seen in the class that you were studying that even students without experience were there in the class? Were there some cases like that?
Yeah, for sure. Masters in Management program is for candidates with less years of experience or freshers as well. So we've
Right.
had mix of both. Basically, advisable to have less than 2 years.
Right.
But there were students with more than 2 years of experience, and actually, it's not really a big problem, right?
Hmm.
And if you have experience, it gives you a better leverage to apply to European jobs because Indian students usually do not have language requirements and they miss out on that. So
Right.
if you have prior work experience, probably in good company, it adds on to your CV.
Right.
Also helps in CV selection, and recruiters can give a preference to this.
Absolutely. And when it comes to someone who's currently, let's say, studying in the final year, what would you advise them? Should they really focus just on their if they have to apply this year itself, and it's it's like February going on right now, they have like 6-7 months. Would you advise them to just focus on a particular aspect like GMAT, or would you also ask them to maybe do and try to do as many extracurriculars as they can in the given time, or whatever actually is in their hands, be it an internship or anything like that? What would you suggest?
Well, there's no right answer for this because maybe the person already has a really good profile. So in
Right.
that case, I would just tell them to focus on your GMAT or GRE scores.
So Isha, in your experience, like you've done your own essays and you now are helping out other students also. What do you feel is like few of the biggest mistakes that specifically Indians do in their applications, or maybe something they just miss doing, like they don't even do that, and that hampers? Like, in short, how does ESCP or any other good college would want your essays to be?
Sure. So I think one thing which can be a disadvantage is that competition is quite high for Indian students. Like given the population,
Right.
even 50% of the class is comprising of Indian people, right? So it's
Right.
like best of the best students. So it's very important for them in their essays to write about their own personal choice, personal
Right.
voice, and their story. So a lot of students actually forget about it. They kind of might make it very mechanical and just they lose their personal touch. So ADCOM, the admission committee, would want to see how your journey has been so far. I would strongly advise not to use any AI generated content because it's quite easy to detect that.
Right.
And just take help from people who have been through this process and can guide you
Right.
and be your original self and not to boast around in the application. It's quite evident for people to see if you mention something you should not done, because in
Right.
the interview you might have to defend it. So just be honest, transparent, and tell your personal story.
Absolutely. So it's not really just about showing off your achievements. It's actually, even if it's a failure and if it has been a good experience for you, you can still talk about it, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a very good point to mention, right? It's not just about amplifying everything. I mean, I think in my experience, you can amplify as long as you can prepare for that sort of stuff and back it up in your interviews, right?
Sure.
Which
It
a lot
has
of
to
people
be a
can't. Right? Yeah. So my next aspect and next question would really be like, because ESCP is a college which allows you to study in lots and lots of campuses. I mean, I would say only one of few colleges in the world. Uh, which campus you chose, and what were your motivations behind choosing those campuses?
So I initially chose Paris campus because that's kind of like the first choice for students because
Right.
it is the main campus.
Right.
But honestly, it doesn't make much of a difference if your first campus is not Paris.
Okay.
It's all right because a lot of students are scared about this. So I just want to put it out there that it's all right.
Right.
Secondly, I chose Berlin
Right.
because I was also thinking from a perspective that where would I eventually want to work.
Right.
So France and Germany would be my choices to, eventually have an employment contract. And that's why I chose Berlin campus.
Right.
Also, it had really good specializations for marketing and sales, which was something I wanted to do.
Okay.
So it was like a combination of both the factors and, it just worked out for me there.
Okay. So is it like few of the campuses are known for few of those things? Like some campuses might be known for finance, or some, like you said, Berlin is something that's really known for, marketing and sales. So is it something like that?
But not entirely, because
Right.
but in certain cases, for example, London, if you want to go into finance, then it's an obvious choice, right, to
Right.
go there because the employment opportunities.
Right.
But overall, I see that if you pick out key management subjects like marketing, HR, finance, consulting, all
Right.
of these specializations are available in most of the campuses. So it's just a personal choice of a student where to go.
Makes sense. And what has been the best memory or assistance or help or growth factor that you've seen at ESCP, which you would sort of put a lot of emphasis on ESCP ki, iski wajah se this happened, right? So what has been the biggest assistance you've got in any factor in your life?
Yeah, so I think it's like a mix of many factors, I would say. So, firstly, I got to change my campuses around. So,
Right.
this helps me to understand the work culture of different countries. I
Right.
worked in France and then I worked in Germany, and it helped me understand what are the regulations, what are the employment laws, and where do I really see a fit. So,
Right.
ACP had not been there, I probably wouldn't really get that kind of
Hmm.
exposure. Apart from this, I also did an exchange program in Leipzig with HHL school. So
Right.
again, it's a different university, lot to learn and meet new people. So all these factors help you eventually build a good profile.
Hmm.
Apart from this, a lot of things which ACP provides, like French assistance, so you can learn the language. That's super helpful if you are planning to do so. And
Right.
there's Career Cell, which helps you, build up on your CV, your cover letters. If you want to just talk about your application process, you can book one-on-one sessions, talk about it.
Right.
And one thing which I really like is the career fairs, because
Right.
each campus has their own career fairs, and that actually helped me get internship at KPMG even without knowing French. So I think that was a very good point for me. It's just that you have to leverage your networking skills and try to um, try to connect with recruiters as much as possible.
It's amazing, and that's a very huge motivation, right, for students, especially at this point of time when the market is not so favorable for everyone, especially Indians, that you got an internship without you knowing French, and that was possible because of the career phase that you've attended. Now, moving to a question which you can say is like a derivative of this one, is when you're studying as an Indian in a different country, a lot of people, since they have put in a huge amount of investments, they would want to work part time, and most of them don't really know the local language, and it's Europe. So how has it been for you when you were in Berlin? Were you working part time, or do you know someone who was working part time who did not really knew German language, and do they really get jobs out there, part time jobs out there?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question, because at the end you would want to cover your living expenses,
Right.
especially when you're studying abroad.
Right.
So Germany is a great place to do working students, and I think that's also what I decided to do. So I was with Publicis, I was doing project management, and I work like 20 hours per week, and they pay you on an hourly basis.
Okay.
There are a lot of websites apart from LinkedIn which are focused more on working student job applications. You can
Okay.
apply there, see opportunities. And I was quite regularly applying, and
Okay.
that's how it worked out for me. I got two offers,
Okay.
so I just picked one of them, and I think I had really great experience. And plus, it teaches you something, and
Okay.
at the same time, it's not very overwhelming, so it's easy to manage along with your academic studies.
Awesome. And how is life like in general as an Indian student in Europe? Like, how is accommodation? How are people out there? Most importantly, right? How has been your interaction with Europeans out there, and how is general day to day living expenses? If you can shed light on either of these or all of these, very helpful for a lot of students.
Yeah, that's like a lot of questions at one go. But student life, it depends on which campus you are in. I
Right.
mean, both of them were worlds apart for me, when I was in Paris or when I was in Berlin.
Right.
When I was in Paris, I lived in a student housing. It's called the Indian House, and it's called Cité Universitaire. It's a
Okay.
great place, affordable, and they take applications every year. You send them a cover letter, show your interest, why do you wanna stay there, and it's like it's a really was a really nice experience for me.
Right.
Met new people, masters and PhD, so you get to learn a lot from there.
Okay.
But when I was in Berlin, it's more of like more of how do I put it? It's not the same environment for me as Paris
Okay.
because it's kind of like a private housing. So
Okay.
you're just living in apartments with flatmates you're sharing, right? So it's quite a formal setting
Right.
and also more expensive if you have to talk about expenses. But since I was doing working student, it kind of balances out.
Right.
I wasn't doing part-time in France because it's a bit difficult there because of language requirements.
Okay.
So I stuck to Germany for that. And what were your other questions? Sorry, I'm forgetting.
I mean, you've covered most of it. In general, I was just asking, like, how are Europeans with Indians? Are they friendly with Indians? In general, not specific, like French people or Germans. How has been your interaction with them?
Yeah, so I think, of course, keeping aside the language barriers, I think everybody is quite welcoming,
Okay.
especially you get time to interact with them during your group projects or probably you're staying with them. So all of these are like environments where you can interact and it's like a good cultural exchange. I would say just about their culture, their experiences, and it's like always a good feeling. But provided you have to like really put yourself out of your comfort zone to make interactions and
Right.
make friends.
So to anyone who is considering going out there and feeling ki how would people be to me, you have to take the first step and the initiative of interacting with them, and that's when you're gonna get the right feedback. It's not just that just because it's their country they have to be welcoming to you, right? But given what Isha has mentioned, it's a fairly decent place, and you don't really have to worry about lot of aspects about them not being welcoming enough. Last question about ESCP specifically would be,
Okay.
so you did mention career fairs, and that's how you really got your internship. Does ESCP offer any other sort of assistance in jobs, like the full-time roles that you really get after your graduation? Is there any other support that you receive apart from career fairs?
So I think students need to understand that it's not like a placement committee in foreign universities, like in contrast to Indian ones. So the school will only assist you in building your profile, probably conduct one-on-one with you to boost your confidence, interview skills.
Right.
But at the end, the part of searching for a job has to be done on your own.
Right.
There are fairs where companies come, they pitch and, they tell us about the applications which are opening, what does the company do? And all these things are great way, networking events for me to meet, the recruiters and the employees. But at the end, if you're looking for jobs, it has to be on your own. So that's it.
Makes sense. And again, like a derivative of this, like do brand names really help you get the jobs? Is a brand name extremely important? Because like I've covered this in other podcasts also that I've done. Like for Indians, going abroad is such a big step. Like of course it is a huge step when you're going and stepping into a different country, that studying abroad becomes a bigger goal than studying in a best college abroad. So what do you think, does it really help you when you are from a brand name? And when you go to a different country also, like you are in Netherlands but you've studied from ESCP, is that something that people in Netherlands really know about, or how is it like in general about brands?
Okay, so I'm still trying to fully understand your question here. Basically, the brand name of the university where you're
Yes.
studying abroad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in certain cases, it might matter,
Right.
but not 100%.
Okay.
ESCP is a French business school, highly well known there, but maybe not in Netherlands because there are other Rotterdam School of Management, which is quite well known here.
Right.
But what really comes down to is your CV, because that's what the first thing you need to apply for a job, right?
Right.
And then your interview skills. So even if you're from a good school, but if you're not really performing well in the interview, you wouldn't really get the job. And I've seen the opposite as well. Students from tier 2 colleges, universities, and really getting good offers in good companies and doing well. So I think it's quite a bit of a hype, I would say, the brand schools. I mean, they do matter, but not that much. If you're not from a college with high reputation or high ranking, I think there's nothing to be disheartened, and you can still pursue studying abroad and make it, give it a shot. Basically, that's what
Right.
I believe.
So, like you mentioned that, if you are from a top college and if you don't really do well in the interviews, um, it's not going to help you. But do top colleges help you? Like the names, of course, not directly. Do top colleges names, brand names help you get more interviews? Is that something we can say?
Yes, I think that's something which it will for sure give you a leverage over other CVs. I think that's what,
Makes sense.
as
So
yeah,
it will basically put you at a level where you can show off your skills. That's it. That's what brand can
yeah,
do.
it gives you a slight advantage for sure.
Right. And last question, like, what sort of advice would you give to someone wanting to study at ESCP or an equivalent brand in Europe? Anything that you felt maybe you could have done right, you might have saved some time in your whole process, or mentally what they have to be prepared for any sort of struggles, challenges. Of course, it's one of the best schools, so you're gonna have a great time, but of course there are struggles to it. So anything that you feel there's no particular topic that this is about, you can share.
So sure. So I've been, taking one-on-one sessions with students for quite some time now.
Right.
And one thing which I've realized that sometimes they're not very sure if they even want to study abroad. Probably somebody from the family or peers are already there, and that's their motivation. So I
Right.
think first is like reflection and trying to understand what is your long-term career goal.
Right.
That's something which I always ask them, and where do they eventually see themselves working? If you see yourself working abroad, then for sure come and apply. One thing which I would like to advise is to apply as early as possible. I applied in round 3, which is quite late, so I couldn't
Right.
really apply to scholarships. But in earlier rounds, there are chances of getting scholarships, so nobody would want to miss out on those opportunities. Once you're here, surround yourself with people who are smart. That's important because that really helps in your overall personal and professional growth.
Right.
So surround yourself with good people and they're knowledgeable. Make sure you have mentors. ESCP actually provides mentors every year, and you can pick people from the industry, have one-on-one calls with them, and that actually really helped me as well. So be proactive, take initiatives, and just make sure that you're not in your comfort zone, and focus on academics as well as extracurriculars, which helps you build a good CV overall. So yeah, I think these are
Amazing.
some things which I really worked upon.
Absolutely. I mean,
And
you've covered almost everything. So, so starting with getting the thought clear initially, like, what is your goal? Do you want to work there? Do you want to just study there, or do you want to just study there and come back to India? Whatever the goal is, that has to be absolutely clear, and that's when you can really take the next step of choosing the right university, the right course, and then you really connect it with your applications, your exams, right? It was really nice talking to you, Isha. So, guys, before we end this, so Isha has a very beautiful Instagram channel where she talks about almost everything that you need to know, right from starting of applying to the universities till you get there, and after that also, like, how you can really secure employment and what you can do. She has done it herself, right? And she has been working in Netherlands for some time now. So you should definitely check out the channel. I've seen the content myself. It's absolutely amazing. Would help you a lot. And do follow her on Instagram, and follow, and not follow, but yeah, do subscribe our YouTube channel also. Bye bye.